Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. This is Courtney, the Marketing Coordinator here at AIM. Today's webinar will be recorded and then later posted on our website. This does mean that all attendees will be automatically muted so that we can get a quality recording. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, go ahead and type them into the chat box and we'll try to reach them during the webinar today. But if we run out of time, we'll have a member of our marketing team follow up with you individually. If you haven't already heard, we just unveiled our newest agent resource here at AIM, the 2-Minute Minute. The marketing team will be bringing you quick hit ways to talk to more prospects, write more business, and grow your agency. We're posting new videos twice a week, so check our Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or YouTube pages to see what you might have missed. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Derek so that we can get started today. Go ahead and take it away, Derek.
Thank you, Courtney, and hello, everybody. As Courtney already mentioned, this is Derek Lape here with AIM, and today we're going to be doing a little bit of a back to the basics selling solutions. So with a lot of this, we're going to do it kind of high level. If you want to dig into stuff a little bit more, feel free to shoot over, any questions or ask them, on a phone call later on. But with that, we'll go ahead and jump into this. So back to the basics is going to mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. It encompasses a wide variety of thoughts and ideas. Here, we're going to be going a little bit more selling based, like I mentioned. And with that, we're going to kind of start from the beginning or ground zero. Now, that's going to apply whether you are brand new to the industry or you've been doing this for 40 years. It's always a good thing to kind of reassess and kind of gauge where you are and what might be working and what not. With that, obviously you see the who, what, when, where, why. Something that's been kind of pounded into our head is, kids sitting in a classroom. This is going to be a little bit more as far as how it pertains to your client base, who they currently are and who you want them to be. Those two things are going to change over time. So for instance, when I was first starting out as an agent, it was anybody in the state I was licensed in. As I kind of grew my business and networking skills and my client base, I was able to be a little bit more selective on who my clientele was going to be. So with that, you're going to want to look at who you want your clients to be and who they currently are. You're going to be wanting to know what products you're selling or what you want to sell. So maybe you're just starting out and you're focusing on easy products like term life insurance, right? Really quick turnaround from start to finish, gets you your commission, you get paid, you keep your doors open. Maybe you really want to go into, something like med subs, but you just don't know how. But figuring out what you're selling and where you want to go with those sales and what kind of products you want to get to. The when isn't as relevant here, but it still is there. So like I mentioned, med subs, depending on what state you're in, you might have limited open enrollments with no birthday rules and stuff like that. So you're going to focus on certain products, certain times of the year. Where your client base is located can be extremely important. As I mentioned, it's kind of open to not only your whole state you're licensed in or all the states you're licensed in, but you might want to focus in more on, let's say, high net worth clientele. And with that, they usually live in certain cities, work in certain cities in your state. So you might want to focus your efforts a little bit more towards those cities or areas. With everything here, what you're really trying to do is come up with a game plan. And you have to answer all these questions beforehand, including the why you're choosing those clients, products, and locations, because it's going to have a really important impact on what you're planning to do and how you're getting there. And as far as that why, it's also going to be, hopefully products you believe in, because it does make it a little bit easier to sell them. It's not, completely necessary, but it's going to help out a lot. So when you're creating this game plan, right, like I said, starting ground zero, make sure you have the licensing, making sure your contracting's in line, that you're in compliance with all the carriers you have, that you have your continuing education. If you have certain carriers and you're not sure where you're at, give us a call, we'll let you know. You're going to be looking at building different leads and marketing networks with kind of whether it's a BNI group that's a little bit more official or some kind of networking group that you just throw together with some people that you meet in the industry. And you're really going to be wanting to create a vision for your business as well as yourself and the image you want to portray. That's going to be extremely important in this industry. So with all things, having a vision and idea is great, but you need to actually have a way to follow through on that. So when you put this into practice, you're going to have a way to be able to make sure that you're actually hitting certain goals. Because, I mean, having a goal is great, but if you don't have a clear way that's easy for you to track what you're doing, you're not going to know if it's working. You're not going to know if certain things are a waste of time or if it's worth your effort. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this. Most of you have seen or are doing something as simple as, I want to get 5 life apps a week. In order to do that, I need to do 10 quotes. In order to get 10 quotes, I need to talk to 20 people, right, on the phone. In order to actually talk to 20 people on the phone, I need to make 40 calls. Very easy way to track what you're doing and see if it's working and if you need to adjust numbers. Very simple. I like to keep things as simple as possible. And it's a really good way when you're starting off to just kind of be able to see what's working and what's not. There are a lot of different ways that you can create metrics and keep track of things. One thing I started doing later in my career, instead of looking for yeses as far as getting quotes, I started tracking the no's I was getting. Part of that reason was because if I started off my Monday with 10 yeses and that's what I was trying to get, I might tend to kind of let off the gas a little bit later in the week because I already hit my numbers. Whereas if I'm tracking the no's that I'm getting for people looking for quotes, well, those 10 yeses gave me 0 no's, so I'm nowhere near the goal I'm trying to hit, and I keep pushing. Really what you want to do is find something that works for you and that is easy for you to keep track of and adjust, and you're just looking for a way to keep track of how you're doing. Another big thing I see with whether they're newer agents or they've been in the business for a long time is complaints about how hectic your day might get, right? This whirlwind and chaos of events and people calling in, and every agent that gets you on the phone, it is the most important thing and they need it ASAP. So really, you kind of need to take back your day. You can do this a few ways. So one thing that really helps is, for me, at the end of the day, I would always plan my day the next day. What calls I need to make, what looks like it's most important, what's on an actual timeline, who might be a more important client, and that can vary, based off of your preferences. And then the next morning when I came into work, I would sit down and look at any voicemails, emails I got, kind of reassess, readjust that list. And then once I went to lunch and came back, I would do the same thing again and just kind of keep repeating. There's a lot of different ways you can do this and structure it for yourself, but some of the key components you're going to need to have are the ability to sit down and figure out what's actually worth the time. So maybe for you, it's going to be all commission based, right? This customer is going to bring in more money. Maybe it's something with an app where there's a timeline from underwriting, and if you don't get that in the next 24 hours, that app's going to get declined. Maybe it's something where you're accounting for, this client loves to chat on the phone forever, working that in. But you're going to want to make sure that you're kind of setting clear conditions and in a way training your clients for what they should expect from you from the start. It's going to make your life a lot easier down the road. You can do that by putting things in emails like, we'll reply in 24 to 48 hours. Simple but effective. You can let them know when you're on the phone, hey, I'm going to have to reach out to this department. I'll get back to you in 24 to 48 hours. Now, you may know in your head that it's really only going to take, a couple hours to get through with hold times and stuff like that. But it's one of those things that's not a big rush, so you can push it off maybe a day or two. Like I said, you're going to want to keep readjusting that as you go through stuff and check it out. Now, some of you may know I was in the Army. Some of these terms are military-based. But as you see here, fake it till you make it. What I mean by that isn't lying or guessing or saying stuff. That is going to be the quickest way to lose clients and have them not trust you and come back. If you ever don't know an answer, You can say something as simple as, "That's a great question. I will look into it and find out." If you want to get a little bit fancier on it, you can say, "That's a great question. I want to pull up that product for that specific state," as each state's a little bit different. No one's going to expect you to know every answer, but you do want to kind of project the confidence and professionalism that you know what you're talking about. You may get an agent who's retired who knows more than you do, so they'll really appreciate the fact that you're not kind of throwing stuff out there. Also, kind of with that image and vision of your practice and yourself that we were going through earlier, a lot of, and this is going to mainly apply to younger, whether they've been in the business for a while or newer agents, have come to me and complained about they have a hard time kind of getting, respect from older clientele just because they're looking at their age. Part of that is going to be that vision and image you project to them. It's a lot easier to come off a little more professional and build that relationship with the customer later with some jokes than it is to go the other way around. So, for instance, a lot of people will do great in P&C because it's not as complex a product and they're happier to go with you there. Once you start getting into things like annuities or more complex life insurance, that kind of jokester that they love you for, they kind of start looking at the fact that it's a lot of money that they have going places, and that's when they'll kind of step away and go to someone else for those things. So it's a little bit easier to start off a little bit more professional with that image, and it's just part of this business. A lot of clientele are going to look for kind of who looks like they're successful in that business. And, I can't really blame them. I would rather give money or talk to people who look like they're doing well in their job than aren't. That's one of the things that goes with this is that image you're trying to project should kind of align with the clientele you're trying to get. So if you're going to a tech company and they're all in suits and ties, right? You don't necessarily have to get a tie, but making sure you dress a little bit more business to be presentable. Now, that can also come back and not work out if you're going to meet a farmer's co-op in the middle of nowhere and you show up in, leather shoes that are worth $500 and suit and tie. So that kind of image you're projecting is going to be really important. And then also, like you see there, embrace the suck. This is going to be from things like don't take a no as personal. If someone's calling you and they are giving you a hard time on pricing over the phone because they went up, don't take it personally. It's not anything you did, and it may not be something you can fix. But I have seen a lot of agents get burnt out, whether it's because they keep taking phone calls on price increases, or they had to have 100 calls out today and no one answered the phone. Or on the other end, they spent 8 hours on the day, on the phone with someone and got no sales. Everything's going to kind of be an opportunity, and learning how to not get burnt out and just kind of not take things personally is going to be, huge for you in this career. All right. So it probably jumps out on the left side, don't sell products. I'm not saying don't sell anything. It'll make a little bit more sense in a second. What that's kind of talking about is don't be a car salesman. Now, I've met lots of great car salesmen, but I'm more talking about that kind of negative connotation that goes with that term. When you're sitting down with clients, you really want to be talking to listen. And what that means is you're using a lot of leading questions, a lot of open-ended questions, because you're kind of wanting them to divulge as much information as possible, right? Maybe they said that they need life insurance and that's why they're calling you. So they have an idea of what they want, but they don't necessarily know what's going to fit their needs, right? That's why we're the professionals, we're in the business. What you don't want to do is sit there and just throw out a whole bunch of information about life insurance and this is what you need. I don't know about you guys, but for me, anytime I have an idea, it sounds a lot better, right? At least to myself. So what you're trying to do here is use these kind of leading questions, these open-ended questions, to find out what they really think they need and why they think they need it, as well as looking for other keywords and phrases that are going to come into play later. Once you kind of get them led to basically, the issue or what they think they need. So let's say we have a male, he's the primary breadwinner. He's scared of what's going to happen with his wife and kids if he passes away. Perfect. So he sees more in depth and came to this realization himself, right? Instead of just calling in, I think I need life insurance. So what you're going to do at that point is you're not going to be pushing a product. You're going to be offering them a solution for the kind of problem that they came up with themselves. So it almost makes it seem more like it was their idea, which it is, because they're called you to try and get that fixed. And that's why you kind of steer the conversation in certain ways to get there. If you have, personable examples of things you've seen with those products or that have come up, it's a great time to use them. If you don't have any, talk to other agents. I'm sure they have a bunch. So that's always a good way to kind of connect with the client there. And also with those keywords and kind of phrases that you're jotting down, you're looking for a few things. You're looking for other products you can pivot to, as well as what that customer really values. You'll get a real quick idea of, okay, this person is really ABC, they care about price, we can keep this quick and to the point. So that's gonna add value in their minds. They're trying to get off the phone as fast as they can. Or maybe you have someone who's retired who never gets to talk, and that extra 5 minutes of just letting them talk about their dog or their grandkids is gonna make all the difference in the world. So you're really looking for the value you can add to that customer to kind of elevate you in their minds when they're thinking of other insurance agents. Now, as far as providing that solution or means to it, once they come to that realization, there's going to be many different routes you can take and go through. And it's going to just make life a lot easier for you instead of trying to push something and getting them to be like, oh yeah, he knows exactly what he's talking about. That will come later in the relationship. You'll be able to just kind of get straight to the point. But in that beginning, you're going to find those quality conversations go a lot further. Yes, they'll take more time, but it's going to make it a lot easier when you're kind of writing down all these different notes of different things they're saying. So in that example I just gave, like I said, he's the primary breadwinner. Okay, you jotted that down. He's worried about his, wife and kids. What happens if your wife passes away, right? Do you have childcare in place? Are you going to be able to take care of that? Are you going to be able to pay more money for a nanny? Maybe your mother-in-law will come live with you. Usually that wakes a lot of people up with that last one. It's kind of a joke, but they kind of see it, I don't have a plan. Maybe we do need life insurance on my wife. So it gives you that ability to pivot. Pivoting is going to be huge and extremely important. It's going to let you get to a lot of the ancillary products and different things going on. And I know it's something that gets beat to death in this industry, but there's reasons for it. Is because the most successful agents always find a way to pivot to different products. And it could be something as simple as they're getting a med sup. Do you want, dental vision with that? Do you have a prescription drug plan? These are all things, especially when they're just aging in, that they're used to having, that they may not even know is not going to be on their med sup. So it's just super easy to throw in there. I have the whole gardening reference and planting seeds here, because you're going to want to plant seeds in this conversation you're having. What I mean by that is maybe Jim you're talking to is looking for, whatever product it is, but he's 64 years old. So next year he's going to be eligible for med subs, and that's something you sell. So it can be as simple as planting the idea of, yeah, we do all kinds of stuff here. We do med subs, we do, prescription drug plans, so things relevant to that age group. Doesn't mean you necessarily have to get in depth then if they don't ask questions, but you're kind of planning these ideas of things you do that might be a good idea and that he can come to you for later on. Some of this is going to be long game. Some of it may, come to, getting a policy pretty quick. You're also really going to want to make sure that once you identify where that value comes from in that customer's mind, that you keep adding it. So if it's someone who's more personable and relationship based, something as simple as a phone call, just checking in, you may be looking for other products to pivot to and different things, but just talking to them and seeing how they're doing first and what's going on. Sending birthday cards, even for the younger generations, still means a lot because it's something we're not used to getting or seeing. And something else that's beat to death in this industry, referrals, right? You're gonna have to get very comfortable asking for referrals. Now, if someone is chewing you out on the phone over pricing or whatever, probably not the best time to ask for a referral. But on the other side, if you have someone who is, singing your praises and super happy for whatever reason, it can be something as simple as, great, I'm glad this, helped save you money, or I'm glad you're happy with my service. Do you know anybody else that might benefit from having a similar conversation? And you can adjust the phrasing of that to whatever works for you, right? A lot of this stuff is making it the way you speak, the way you're going to communicate, and making it really be you. But getting in the habit of constantly asking for referrals. And a lot of successful agents who've been around, this is something they kind of drop off asking for too, because they've been getting so many of them for so long. But that doesn't mean that if they, start asking for them again, they're not going to get more. And it's one of those things, like I said, it's a relationship business, right? So whether those referrals are coming from customers, friends, people you network with, just really trying to build that base up is going to be extremely important. All right. So the next big one is going to be objections. And these are going to come from yourself. They're going to come from clients. They're going to come from, agents you have under you or working with you. I'm not going to go through what all the main objections are. I'm sure you guys know them. Pretty simple. We all get them. But really what you're going to have to do to overcome these, the easiest way is finding out what the objection really is. So let's say you're trying to sell something to somebody and they're like, you know what, I just don't think I need life insurance. Instead of just being like, okay, or just arguing the point of why they may need it, take the time to ask them some questions about why they think that is. A lot of times you'll find out it's actually not the fact that they don't want or need life insurance, it's the price, right? And then there's usually something we can do about that. We can lower, the benefit. We can look for different kinds of life insurance. But if you don't actually find out why they're really objecting, because, maybe they're just too proud to admit they don't have the money for something at that time, or whatever the case is, you're not going to be able to overcome that objection. So don't always take that first objection as exactly the real reason. You're also going to want to sit there and practice different objections and kind of see what's coming up for key products you're selling. I know it sounds silly, but one thing that really benefits a lot of people is role playing. Some places call it real playing. Just kind of working with some different people and going through, especially if you're newer, definitely is going to help out. You can have scripts for different objections, just, kind of like I've been saying this whole time, make sure you do it in your own words and your own style, or else the clients will catch, that you're reading off a piece of paper, and it kind of takes away from that whole relationship building and being personable. And then also you got to be honest with yourself. You're not always going to be able to find a solution to an objection. There may not be one, right? So don't sit there and beat your head against a wall trying to, fight this one objection. I did that earlier in my career with some stuff, and eventually I got smarter and realized, hey, you can't fix everything, right? But that doesn't mean it's not an opportunity. Even if someone's leaving, let's say for price, and you have a good relationship with them and they're like, I'm sorry, it's just a lot cheaper. No, I understand, right? I would be doing the same thing. But is it okay if I reach out to you in 6, 12 months and, see if we can win you back or anything like that? A lot of times they'll say yes, and they'll appreciate that. And they will still refer you to friends, right? Because you're not sitting here getting frustrated with them or making them feel bad or arguing with them. You're keeping that relationship going, and you're still looking out for their best interest as, maybe we can win you back. As far as agent objections, a lot of it's going to be, the product's not competitive. I don't have enough time, which is where kind of taking control of your day comes in. This client's impossible. A lot of that's going to come down to, like I said, what's really the objection? What's going on? Luckily, if you're an independent agent and a product is not competitive, you can always give us a call and we can find one that is. But sometimes it's as simple as, maybe it's a few dollars more, but if you find what actually adds that value to the given client, and it's going to be different for every client, they're going to be more than okay spending a couple dollars. Not always, but a lot of the time. So kind of going through, like we were just talking about, and actually really addressing the objectives. Most of these things that come from agents are doable, right? Because if all these complaints were true, there would be no successful agents out there, and there are a lot of them. All right. So this is kind of the age-old debate. Agents who've been around forever, people new coming into it, the whole quantity versus quality. Everybody hears it's a numbers game. And there is definitely some truth to that. In this business, like all sales, you can be one of the worst salesmen in the world, or saleswoman. And as long as you get in front of enough people, you can still be successful. Now, to me, that's a little bit like cutting down a tree with an axe instead of a chainsaw. It's a lot harder. It takes a lot more effort and time. So I, especially later in my career, shifted a lot more towards those quality, longer conversations, trying to figure out what they need, what they think they need, me being the expert, knowing what they need and getting them to that point. And sometimes, like I said, it was a really quick turnaround. Sometimes it was planting seeds for, a year, 2, 3 down the road, and just keeping them there for that long. So kind of going through that. And then, buying leads versus networking, marketing, trying to grow a business organically, what's the best? That answer is going to vary. Not all leads are built the same. Some of the really good ones are really expensive. And if you're new or starting out, or, even have been in a while, you may not have the funds you want to divert towards that. Networking, like I said, BNI groups, they're going to charge you money to get into them. Marketing, whether it's sending out emails or social platforms or whatever the case is. So like I said, this is going to be a little bit more high level, and we're going to stay there, but it's going to be a little more case by case basis on what you're trying to build and accomplish. Is going to be the honest answer, right? No one thing's going to work for every agent. And then kind of like I put down there, value in relationships. It's not just relationships with your clients. It's going to be with those you network, other industries. So for instance, maybe you're working with people at the bank to send you stuff as far as life insurance or annuities. Just building that network, it's really going to be a relationship business. And the sooner you figure that out, the easier it's going to be. So that way you're not just sitting in front of your phone, making 100 to 200 calls a day, locked in the basement somewhere, right? It's going to make everything a lot easier for you. So the quality stuff is going to be huge. And also with that, for me, later in my career, I really went from numbers to kind of high net worth clientele. It's not necessarily that it's easier. True, you only need maybe one client to match 5 other ones as far as the commissions you're going to be getting back. But usually those clients are going to be just as demanding as having 5 of the other ones. But it was just something I enjoyed doing more and getting into it. And it does provide a lot more opportunity to pivot and have different stuff coming down the road. So, but like I said, make it work for you. So a lot of people are going to get kind of stuck in a rut, right? They're going to think, I've been doing this for 3 years, 6 years, 8 years, and it's worked the whole time. Don't do that, right? Make sure you're kind of looking and reassessing at what's working and what's not working. Just because you've been successful this whole time doesn't mean you can't be more successful, or doesn't mean that you can't make things a little bit easier to get the same results. So constantly keep evaluating what you're doing, and then change it up. Even if it is working, don't be scared to try it. Keep adjusting your goals and metrics for what's realistic, but kind of a stretch. And then don't forget about ROI. ROI isn't a person, it stands for rest of year. So some of the agents out there are in just med subs. And like I said, in their state, it's only for, X amount of months out of the year. What are you going to be doing the rest of the year? right? If it's going on vacation and relaxing, awesome, right? That works for you. But for a lot of agents, they're trying to make more money here and there. So figuring out what products you could be selling then, what kind of seeds you could be planting to come up as far as marketing ideas, reaching out to people, building relationships, asking for referrals for, the next season that's coming up. It's going to be really, really important just to keep that in mind. And then for kind of keeping along that line, you guys all see the quote down at the bottom from James Ramiro, Regional VP. I'm not going to read it out, I'm not going to make you. The kind of gist of it is going with what we were just talking about. As you're reassessing stuff, right, there's always new technology coming out. The clientele base is going to be shifting as different, generations are coming of age and buying different products, and other generations are kind of phasing out. So really keeping up to date on what's going on with the industry, as well as some things that might be as simple as just time saving, that are going to help free up time in your day. So knowing what's going on there is going to be really important, as well as kind of industry trends for certain products, where they're heading, what's going on. The MedSup Med Advantage game right now is huge, and it's going to be for the next, 3 to 5 years because of generations and the amount of people in that population aging in. And then it's going to kind of start to tail off a little bit. Doesn't mean it's still not going to be big, but it's going to be kind of at its high point here in the next few years. So knowing what's going on and planning for that, so you're kind of a step ahead, is really going to help you out. Whether that's going to be towards pivoting to other, products in the future, or, whatever the case is. But it's going to be really important, what's going on in the industry, what's going on with your products. It's going to help you with clients too, right? Kind of projecting that professionalism and confidence and knowing. So keep reading up on your different products, keep knowing everything. Now, on the flip side, don't let that stop you from getting into new products or areas. You don't necessarily have to be an expert on it, right? That's part of the reason we're here. You can give us a call. We can help you out with quotes. We can help explain stuff. We can help train you and get you going on different things. And it's going to be kind of something for you to get into it. Because quite honestly, part of the way you get that knowledge is through experience and doing it. So make sure that you're kind of open to change and going through different things. And with that, like I said, giving us a call, a lot of this stuff we went through is going to be more high level, because each individual topic in there, we could spend 30 to 40 minutes going through and kind of discussing it and tailoring it for yourself. So if there was something we touched on and you want to go more in depth, go ahead and kind of make sure you give us a call, or when we call you, let us know what questions you have, because the team here is great at kind of tailoring a plan specifically to you and your agency. With that, I'm going to go ahead and check with Courtney real quick and see if we had any questions.
We do not right now. So it seems like you might have touched on everything, or people are waiting, to have a more personal conversation when you give them a call later.
Sounds perfect. Thank you, Courtney. So awesome. Yeah, guys. So that's kind of what is going to help as far as sales and going through different things. And like I said, we can get a lot more in depth and specific on certain areas, or, certain techniques and tips. But for now, I just want to say thank you for being here. Hopefully there's something you took away from this that'll help out. And I hope you guys all have a great day. Thank you.